Hi, it's Janelle from Infinite Potential Healing, and as promised, I am here today to talk to you about the blood worm moon total lunar eclipse in Virgo that is happening today, March 3rd. So, when we talk about eclipses, there is a lot to unpack. I want to talk a little bit just about background as to what is an eclipse, what is happening, what is going on. And I wanted to make sure that I was super clear with you about that. So first, this whole blood worm moon. The blood part is not a negative thing. It's blood because the moon tends to look red or take on an orangish reddish color because of the way that the sun is shining through the Earth's atmosphere. So not a crisis, but if you focus on the blood part, it can sound a little bit scary. And of course, popular media loves to do that type of stuff. And it's known as the worm full moon because it's the time of year when the soil starts to warm and earthworms actually start to come out of hibernation and rise up to the top of the soil. This is going to be the last lunar eclipse that we have that's going to be visible until December 31st of 2028. So you may hear a little bit more about this particular eclipse than you have some eclipses in the past, and also the media seems to be talking about them, though not always understanding exactly what the energy is about, a little bit more so than they did in the past. Eclipses always come in pairs, so you always have a solar eclipse, which we had 2 weeks ago on February 17th, followed by a lunar eclipse. And those eclipses are typically in opposite signs, though the caveat there is because obviously our solar eclipse was in Aquarius, which is not opposite of Virgo. Pisces is opposite of Virgo, but have no fear because the next solar eclipse will be in Leo in August, and the next lunar eclipse will be in Pisces in August. So that's how we get those opposite signs. Sometimes it takes through the next eclipse cycle, usually it takes through the next eclipse cycle until we see those opposites balance out. So when we effectively have two eclipse axes, which is when we talk about those opposite signs that are active at the same time. And what an eclipse axis is it's giving you what the overall assignment is, because it's asking you to figure out what your lessons are in each of the signs for the eclipse. So when we had the solar eclipse in Aquarius, it was very Aquarian themed. So Aquarius energy is intellectual energy. It's an air sign, so it's all about our minds and how we think. And there are no bigger, better, outside of the box thinkers than Aquarius. They are really next level when it comes to how they think and how they innovate, and that is very much the energy that the world is coming into and that the world needs right now. The eclipse that we have today in Virgo is an earth sign. It is all about structure, discipline, but it's also a mutable sign, so it's about being willing to be flexible within the confines of the structures and discipline within your life. Virgo also rules the 6th house of your astrology chart, or any astrology chart for that matter. And the 6th house is known as the house of health and daily habits. So this particular eclipse is very, very focused on putting structure and discipline in place when it comes to what are you doing for your health and what are you doing for organization in your life, and what is the tie and the focus between your health and the things that you are organizing in your life. Sometimes when your life or even your physical space is disorganized, it can cause energetic disorganization within your body or energetic health that is not ideal because your environment doesn't support you being healthy. So it's really kind of asking you to set up the structures that are going to best support your health and your daily habits. Solar eclipses are when the moon passes between the sun and the earth during the day, and then lunar eclipses are when the earth passes between the sun and the moon at night. At their core, eclipses basically bring darkness so that we can then have the sun bring light, illumination, and hopefully a shift in perspective and focus based on the themes of whichever sign the eclipse is happening in. eclipses also ask us to consider the opposite perspective of the sign opposite the sign the eclipse occurs in. So for us today, our eclipse is happening in Virgo. So Virgo is that earth sign. It's grounded. It wants structure, discipline, but it wants us to, again, be a little bit flexible about that. Virgo is also the nurturer, and it has a lot to do with harvesting the hard work that we've put in the past, because it is the sign of, it corresponds to the sign of the harvest within the zodiac. So the opposite sign of Virgo is Pisces. So we have to consider the Piscean perspective, which is creative and dreamy and watery and bringing balance to our emotions. Now, Virgo, at the end of the day, does not love to deal with emotions. Virgo wants to think about emotions. Virgo wants to analyze emotions. So to have our moon, which is what governs our emotions, be in the sign of Virgo, it can make us a little bit judgmental, a little bit hypercritical about our emotions, how we're processing our emotions, even how we feel in general, or our emotional state. So we have to consider then the Piscean perspective, which is to be dual natured within our emotions, to be creative within our emotions, to be a little bit more fluid with our emotions, because Pisces is a water sign, to be a little bit more expressive with our emotions. So with this total eclipse in Virgo, we're being asked to shift away from perfectionism, because Virgo is a lot of wonderful things. We love the Virgos in our lives, but at the same time, Virgo is unfortunately probably the most pessimistic sign of the whole zodiac. And I'm saying that as a Capricorn, which is easily a very close second in terms of pessimistic signs of the zodiac. So Virgo is asking us not to take an all or nothing perspective when it comes to putting those sixth house structures in place. It's asking us to bring that Piscean fluidity into how we approach structures and discipline and organization when it comes to our health and our daily habits. So with that, and in a season and in a month that is going to be heavily focused on clarity as Aries starts to come in the various planetary placements, we're also being asked or kind of guided not to do things when it comes to our health just for the sake of doing them, or not to do things just because we happen to see it on an app or on social media or an advertisement or a commercial. It's asking us to do those things from an intuitive perspective that sustain and support our health, our organization, our daily habits, and to only do those things with which we feel aligned. That alignment that we worked so hard to achieve in the year of the snake needs to be our compass and our guiding force as we move forward through and into the year of the fire horse. So this particular eclipse also asks us to stop dreaming. So we need to kind of kick that Piscean dreaming stuff to the curb. It asks us to stop analyzing. So it doesn't want the dreamy extreme, and it doesn't want the analytical extreme of Pisces or Virgo. It wants us to just start doing, but it wants us to start doing those things that we know at our core we need to do, those things that foundationally support us on the earth plane, and those things that we feel intuitively aligned with, that support our health, our daily habits, the structure, the organization, and the discipline that surrounds our lives. So have a concrete and a grounded reason for taking the action that you take when it comes to establishing things with your health, things with structures within your life, especially those pertaining to your daily habits and your general organization. So that is kind of the Cliff Notes version as to what this particular eclipse is about. Gives you a little bit more information as to the background as to why eclipses are so important and so profound. And hopefully it gives you a good idea as to how you can best navigate this energy and move forward. Because a lot of times when the media gets a hold of the idea and starts talking about these eclipses, they talk about them in a very negative light, but they're always opportunities. Astrology is always about opportunity. So focus on how you can best utilize the opportunities that this energy is bringing to your life to enhance and support your life, your health, to build structure, to build organization, and to support your daily habits, and to move again out of that dreaming, out of that analyzing, and into the taking intuitive action that you know will sustain and support you.